Ever since I was a child, I've always had a fondness for reading and writing. I can still recall the first time my mom and I sat down to read a book she had recently purchased for me. I had never experienced what reading a book was like before. I was only a little boy, staring into the face of a new, exciting, yet terrifying beast, not knowing what to expect. The older I grew, I knew that reading would play an important role of who I was to become as a reader, writer, and critical thinker. Not only did I find this unique connection in books, but I also discovered it in the video games I played, experiencing new stories I had never experienced before, but I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. My goal was to become an avid reader. I could see that goal far off in the distance, a foreboding sight to behold, but I knew that becoming a better reader and developing strong reading practices was not an unattainable aspiration. My journey was simply underway. After enrolling into grade school and being in a new environment, I was a bit scared of my new surroundings. Okay, I was terrified, but that's beside the point. The reason being was that even though I loved reading and spending time with the stories my books told, I was not the best reader, especially when it came to reading out loud. I can still recall pronouncing island as island, followed by some disapproving looks by my young classmates. I remember they looked at me like I had insulted them all with the worst line I could think of. Suffice it to say, I was devastated. With this, I took my first bit of damage when it came to reading, and I could feel myself lose a little bit of life. But, much like a gamer, I had many power-ups at my disposal to reach my end goal. By the time I arrived in high school, technology had become far more prevalent in the classroom. Therefore, I found myself not only using technology for fun and leisure, but also for studying, researching, and writing essays. By this point in my life as a reader and student, I felt as though I had the power of words in the palm of my hand, emanating like the bright light of the sun. I knew I wanted to have literacy be a focus in whatever career I chose, and I knew that it would make all the difference. Once I arrived in college, I gazed out onto the horizon, eager to see what new adventures literacy had for me. I was in a new setting with new peers, but unlike my grade school experience, I was excited to see what new adventures lay before me. I mentioned earlier that video games would soon become a prominent aspect in my literacy, and this was the point of my life where I discovered how video games could tell stories and make connections with the player, the likes of which we had never seen in any other medium. Through video games, I could see how the tales they told could connect with the player. I constructed huge ideas and theories in my head about what went on in the game, which led me to researching various themes that particular game explored. Building upon these ideas and concepts, I felt as though I had gained something that was incredibly special to me. Games like Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney showed me how character development and forming connections with those characters could be taken a step further. While the entire game is text-based with no voice acting, seeing the characters move as they spoke and seeing their personalities and body language added that much more of an appreciation for the characters and the bonds that existed between myself and them. Square Enix's Deus Ex: Mankind Divided focused on how humans with technological augmentations were seen as outcasts and shunned away in the game world, heavily relating to today's society in the United States where some feel that if you look different, you are seen as an outcast. Themes like these in video games that relate to the real world can open up new doors that lead to a voice in the discussion of real-world situations, giving those who may not know much about a subject a launchpad into the topic, for which they can explore themselves. Now that I'm in the process of obtaining my master's degree, literacy has become an even more important factor in my daily life. Every day I aspire to take in new experiences and open my mind up to new and wonderful possibilities that literacy has to offer. There are no cheat codes for literacy, but I've got unlimited lives and I see no game over in sight.